If you thought the banking collapse was the only thing you had to worry about, you haven't been paying attention to the ground beneath your feet. While the world was staring at the dollar's slow death, a much more violent, much more secretive operation was being executed in the shadows of the East. We aren't just talking about buying anymore. We're talking about a total vacuuming of the global silver supply. China has just inhaled 41 tons of physical silver in a single silent sweep. And the global silver squeeze has officially entered its terminal phase. This isn't just a market update. This is a declaration of resource war. As of January 1st, 2026, the game has fundamentally changed. Beijing has officially pulled the silver trigger. They have implemented a new, ruthless licensing regime that has effectively locked the gates on 70% of the world's refined silver supply. For decades, China was the world's factory, exporting its silver to fuel Western technology. But today, the dragon is hungry. They aren't exporting anymore. They are hoarding. They have realized that in a world of $38 trillion in worthless debt, the only thing that matters is the metal that powers the future. From your smartphone to the missiles in the Pentagon's arsenal to every single solar panel on the planet, it all runs on silver, and China just took the keys to the vault. Look at the raw, terrifying data coming out of the Shanghai Gold Exchange. While the paper markets in New York and London are trying to convince you that silver is stable, the physical price in Shanghai is screaming a different story. We are seeing premiums of $8 to $10 an ounce over the Western spot price. Why? Because in China, they know that paper silver is a lie. They're paying whatever it takes to secure the atoms, the actual physical metal. This 41-ton vacuum move is just the tip of the iceberg. Behind the scenes, the People's Bank of China is facilitating a massive drain of Western inventories. COMEX vaults are down 70%. London's LBMA is bleeding dry, and the world is finally realizing that you cannot build a green energy revolution on digital promises. Elon Musk said it himself just days ago. This is not good. When the world's most famous industrialist starts sounding the alarm on silver, you know the emergency is real. The solar industry alone is on track to consume nearly the entire annual mining production of the planet. And where is that solar industry centered? China. They aren't just investing in silver, they're nationalizing it by restricting exports to only a handful of state-controlled giants. Beijing has weaponized the supply chain. If you're a Western manufacturer and you need silver for your electric vehicles or your AI data centers, you no longer go to a free market. You go to Beijing and you negotiate on their terms. This is the secret silver squeeze. It's not happening on Reddit or in retail chat rooms. It's happening at the sovereign level. China has spent the last 5 years watching the West print trillions and hollowing out its manufacturing. They waited until the world's silver inventories hit decade lows before slamming the door shut. This is a masterclass in resource nationalism. They have created a closed-loop economy where their silver stays inside their borders to fuel their dominance in AI and green tech, while the rest of the world is left to fight over the scraps in the depleted vaults of the West. Think about the implications for the US dollar. If the dollar can't buy you the silver you need for your military-industrial complex, is it even a global currency anymore? The 41-ton sweep is a signal to the world that the paper-to-physical ratio, which currently stands at a staggering 356 to 1, is about to snap. For every 1 ounce of real silver, there are 356 paper claims. China is the one holding the one, and they are about to let the other 355 claims burn. We are witnessing the birth of a two-tier market, a fake market for the masses and a real market for the nations that have the gold and the silver. The warning 2026 is flashing bright red. The structural deficit in silver has been growing for 5 consecutive years, and China just made that deficit permanent for the West. They have moved silver from a commodity to a strategic national asset. This is the same playbook they used with rare earth metals, and it worked flawlessly. Now they're doing it with the most conductive metal on Earth. As the $38 trillion debt bubble expands, the silver vacuum is accelerating. The exit doors are closing, the vaults are being emptied, and the secret squeeze is no longer a secret. The date was January 1st, 2026. While most of the world was nursing a New Year's hangover, a silent execution was being carried out in the boardrooms of Beijing. The silver gates have officially been slammed shut. China's Ministry of Commerce has implemented a new dual license system that has effectively wiped out 60% to 70% of the silver supply that used to flow into the international markets. This isn't just a policy change. It is a total siege. Only a handful of massive state-backed giants are now allowed to export refined silver. And even then, only if they have 80 tons of annual capacity and $30 million in credit. They have successfully cut off the small veins that kept the Western industry alive. But why would China do this now? Because they have realized that the green energy revolution and the AI supercycle are not just industrial trends. They're silver-hungry monsters. Every single AI data center, every NVIDIA chip, every solar panel, and every Tesla battery requires the unique conductivity of silver. There is no substitute. You can't use copper. You can't use aluminum. Without silver, the digital future goes dark. China, as the world's largest refiner, has decided that if the world wants to build the future, it has to happen on Chinese soil, using Chinese silver. They aren't just selling a metal anymore. They're selling permission to innovate. The numbers coming out of the physical markets are absolutely insane. In Shanghai, we are seeing a physical premium that is tearing the global market apart. While the paper pushers on the COMEX are trying to keep the price suppressed at $35 or $40, the actual physical bars in Shanghai are trading north of $80 an ounce. This is a massive $40 per ounce arbitrage gap that has never been seen in human history. It means that the paper-silver system in the West is officially broken. If you have a contract for silver in New York, you have a piece of paper. If you have silver in Shanghai, you have power. The industrial giants are in a state of absolute panic. We are hearing reports that major solar panel manufacturers only have 30 to 45 days of physical silver inventory left. Let that sink in. The entire green transition that the West has spent trillions on is about 6 weeks away from hitting a brick wall. This is the secret silver squeeze that the mainstream media is too afraid to touch. If they admitted the truth, there would be a run on every coin shop and every bullion dealer in the country. They need you to keep believing in the spot price while the vaults are being emptied behind your back. Elon Musk's recent reaction on X says it all. This is not good. Musk knows that Tesla's growth is directly tied to the availability of silver. Silver is the most conductive metal on the periodic table. It is the indispensable atom. By locking up 41 tons in a single sweep and then closing the export gates, China has effectively placed a chokehold on every Western tech company. They are forcing a resource war where the winners aren't the one with the most dollars, but the one with the most ounces. We have entered a period of structural deficit for the 5th year in a row. In 2025, the world needed 1.24 billion ounces of silver, but we only produced 1.01 billion. That is a 230 million ounce gap. Roughly the entire annual production of Mexico, the world's top producer, gone in a single year. And now, with China's 2026 restrictions, that gap is becoming a canyon. Mining companies can't just dig more. It takes 10 to 12 years to bring a new silver mine online. The supply is inelastic, but the demand is exponential. This is the great disconnect. The Pareto-physical ratio has now exploded to an estimated 378 to 1 for every 1 real physical ounce of silver sitting in a vault. There are 378 paper promises circulating in the financial system. It is the ultimate musical chairs game, and China just took away 377 chairs. When the big institutional buyers, the Samsungs, the Apples, the Boeings, realize that the COMEX cannot deliver the physical metal, they will bypass the exchanges and go straight to the source. And the source is now behind a Chinese wall. The warning 2026 is clear. We are moving toward a cash settlement event on the Western exchanges. This is a fancy way of saying a default. And when you ask for your silver and they give you a check instead of the metal, you'll know the game is over. The check will buy you nothing in a world where China controls the supply. We are witnessing the final days of cheap, available silver. The vacuum has started. The squeeze is on. And the physical reality is about to crush the paper lie once and for all. We are now moving into the black zone. If you think this 41-ton silver vacuum is just about solar panels and electric cars, you're dangerously mistaken. This is about the survival of the United States military-industrial complex. While the Pentagon was busy fighting 20th century wars, China was quietly securing the raw materials for 21st century dominance. Silver is not just an industrial metal anymore. It has been officially weaponized. As of 2026, every Tomahawk cruise missile, every F-35 fighter jet, and every hypersonic weapon system in our arsenal is now under a direct threat from Beijing. Why? Because a single Tomahawk missile requires over 500 ounces of silver to function. That's 15.5 kilograms of high-grade physical silver that is vaporized the second that missile hits its target. You cannot recycle it. You cannot reuse it. And most importantly, you cannot substitute it. Silver's unique electrical conductivity is the heartbeat of every advanced guidance system and every thermal imaging sensor we own. And here's the shocking update. While the U.S. strategic silver stockpile has been completely liquidated, gone, zero, empty, China just implemented a resource blockade. On January 1st, 2026, Beijing reclassified silver as a strategic national asset, putting it on the same level as rare earth minerals. They have effectively placed a kill switch on Western defense production. By restricting exports to only a few state-approved giants, they have forced the Pentagon into a corner. We are hearing reports that military contractors are now down to their safety stocks. We're talking about a 45-day window before production lines for our most advanced defense systems start to freeze. This is a silent strike on Washington's military capability. Not a single bullet has been fired. Think about the sheer arrogance of the Western elites. They let our domestic silver mining industry rot while they relied on China to refine 70% of the world as silver. Now that dependence has become a noose. China isn't just vacuuming the metal for their economy. They're draining the West's ability to defend itself. Every ounce of silver that ends up in a Chinese vault is an ounce that can't be used in a U.S. radar system or a satellite communication node. They're winning the cone of the silver war by simply ensuring we run out of the most critical material needed for modern warfare. Even Elon Musk is sounding the alarm on X, calling this move not good. He knows that silver is the fuel for the AI revolution and the digital battlefield. But while Musk worries about Tesla, the Department of Defense is staring at a $38 trillion debt mountain and an empty silver vault. We have the debt. They have the metal. We have the paper. They have the power. This is the ultimate checkmate move. China has realized that you don't need to defeat an army on the field if you can simply stop them from building their weapons in the first place. The warning 2026 is now at a fever pitch. The U.S. government has scrambled to add silver to their critical minerals list for the first time in history. But it's too little, too late. You can't build a mining and refining infrastructure overnight. It takes a decade to bring a silver mine online, but China can cut off your supply in a single afternoon. The secret silver squeeze has moved from the trading floor to the battlefield. The era of cheap, accessible military-grade silver is over. The vacuum is complete. The chokehold is tight. And the West is officially out of time. We have officially entered the event horizon. As of today, January 8th, 2026, the global silver market has fractured beyond repair. What we are seeing is not just a price spike. It is a total systemic failure of the Western financial architecture. While the paper pushers in New York were sleeping, the Shanghai Gold Exchange just delivered a knockout blow. The premium for physical silver in Shanghai has exploded to an unheard of $40 to $50 over the Western spot price. This is no longer a market discrepancy. It is a full-blown physical default in slow motion. Look at the shocking update from the COMEX vaults. Since 2020, inventories have plunged by a staggering 70%. But it's the registered category, the silver that is actually available for delivery. That is the real horror story. In the last 30 days alone, institutional buyers have drained over 45 million ounces. That is nearly 7,000 contracts claimed in a matter of days. The vaults are bleeding out, and the Western exchanges have hit the panic button. To stop the hemorrhaging, the CME Group just hiked margins for the second time in a single week, desperately trying to force small traders to liquidate their positions. They're trying to engineer a crash to save themselves. But you cannot print physical silver to cover a short position. China's new export licensing regime, which went live just 7 days ago, has effectively cut off the oxygen to the London Bullion Market Association, LBMA, by mandating that only state-certified giants with 80 tons of annual capacity can move metal. Beijing has created a silver fortress. They are no longer part of the global supply. They are the owners of it. We are seeing backwardation reach levels that should only exist in a financial apocalypse. Spot prices are screaming higher than future prices because the market is realizing that a promise of silver in 3 months is worth zero. But a bar of silver in your hand today is priceless. Think about the Hunt brothers moment of the 1980s. This is that moment, but on steroids and with a nuclear-powered adversary. China is not just one family. It is a sovereign superpower with $3 trillion in reserves and a strategic mandate to own the future of AI and energy. When they vacuum 41 tons in a secret sweep, they aren't looking for a quick trade. They are executing a force measure event on the Western world. They are forcing the COMEX into a position where they will have no choice but to settle in cash. And when that happens, when the exchange admits it does not have the metal, the paper silver lie will evaporate instantly. We are hearing rumors from insiders that the LBMA market makers are caught in a multi-billion-dollar trap. They sold silver they didn't have at prices that no longer exist to people who now demand delivery. This is a margin call from hell. While the mainstream media talks about volatility, the reality is a liquidity lock. The exit doors are gone. The secret silver squeeze has successfully decoupled the physical reality from the paper manipulation. If you're holding an ETF or a paper contract, you're holding a ticket to a movie that has been canceled. The only thing that matters in 2026 is what is tangible, what is heavy, and what is currently being hoarded by the dragon. We are now entering the final countdown. What we have witnessed in the first week of January 2026 is not just market volatility. It is the sound of the old world cracking open. On Wednesday, silver touched a lifetime high of $82.54 per ounce, a number that would have seemed like science fiction just a year ago. But while the retail world was celebrating the price action, something much more sinister was happening behind the curtain. The Federal Reserve quietly injected $3 billion in emergency liquidity into the banking system without a single public announcement. Why? Because the silver vacuum created by China has finally triggered a systemic liquidity crisis in the West. You see, for every 41 tons of physical silver that China sucks into its vaults, a corresponding hole is ripped into the balance sheets of the major Western banks. These banks are caught in a deadly loop. They are shorting silver to keep the price from hitting $100. But every time they suppress the price, China simply buys more physical metal at a discount. The Fed's $3 billion injection was a desperate attempt to keep the paper silver system from collapsing under the weight of actual delivery demands. But you cannot print your way out of a physical shortage. China's new export regime is the final trap. By locking down 70% of the world's refined silver, they have essentially told the West, we have the metal and you have the debt. This is the resource Cold War in full effect. In 2026, silver is no longer just a metal. It is the ultimate measure of sovereign power. The $38 trillion debt of the United States is now colliding with a world that no longer wants paper. It wants collateral, whether it's for AI data centers, hypersonic missiles, or the massive solar grids of the future. Silver is the only currency that matters. The warning 2026 is that the exit doors are now officially locked. We are seeing a massive physical premium where you might see one price on your screen, but you'll pay double that to actually hold a bar in your hand. This is the bifurcation, the splitting of the market into the haves and the have-nots. If you're not holding the physical metal before the next $100 leg up, You're going to be left behind in a world where the US dollar is a relic of the past and the yuan is the new king. The game is over. The secret squeeze has been won by the East. China has the 41 tons. They have the export licenses, and they have the industrial dominance. The West is left with a $38 trillion bill and an empty vault. This is the moment history will look back on as the day the paper empire finally met its physical reality. Protect your wealth, trust only what you can hold, and prepare for a world where silver is the new gold. The vacuum is complete. The squeeze is on.